And
Okay.
then you're
Test
you're
two.
you're looking at your audio settings, right?
Yep.
All right. Now, you want it's asking you to automatically adjust your mic volume.
Uh-huh.
Turn that off.
Okay.
Now say, I don't know, the quote the preamble to the Constitution.
Uh, and in the for no, I don't know.
Okay.
Getting through
I just
breath.
wanted to
What do
check
I got?
where it's thinks your mic level is at with that off.
Okay.
Now
Give me
go
a
into
sec.
the advanced button down at the bottom,
Uh-huh.
and you'll have a bunch of options.
Ooh, I don't. I really only have show
It should be
in.
like five.
Yeah, I don't even think I have five. I probably need to update. This is my own machine, so I probably have to update.
The option you're looking for though is one of those options will say enable original sound.
Oh, okay.
That one should be there because that's been there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Click that on, like check
Okay.
it, and
Mm-hmm.
then exit out of your sound settings.
Okay.
Now in your sound settings, do you see up in the upper left hand corner a thing that says turn on or turn off original sound?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it says turn off because then it thinks it's on. If it says turn on, click it. If it says turn off, don't click it.
Okay. It says turn off.
All right. Now what that's doing is it's catching all the original sound that your microphone's getting sent and just
Okay.
sending that.
Okay. Does that sound
So
any different than before?
barely it doesn't like it's not that you sound bad, it's just sometimes you cut out.
Okay.
That might just be a server thing too.
Okay.
Sometimes it's not on anybody's end, it's just the way the algorithms are processing the sound.
Okay. Oh, wow. We got to get going. Let's do that.
And you're set up on a Facebook Live. Oh, did Julie leave?
Well, I'll miss her.
Goodbye, Julie.
You're a wonderful host, but
Uh,
the show must go on.
if she doesn't come back, I guess that I'm emceeing, which is fine. Let's give it a
Congratulations on your promotion.
Oh no. Yeah, let's give it a second. See if she comes back. If not. Anyways, good morning everybody. Julie's
Nikki,
disappeared.
we want to see your face, Nikki.
No, I'm just the man behind the curtain. Uh and I'm just gonna be up front. Like I'm like a really bad like I'm a really crappy wizard, so
I disagree personally, but
I'm a bard masquerading as a wizard.
I
I
was
know.
the bard's best.
Bards just know what's up.
Okay, so I fell off the call. That was exciting, and it looks like we're already live streaming.
We were filling time until you got. I was like, "Is
Good
Julie
morning.
coming back? Who
Uh,
knows?"
You never know. Anything's possible.
You're good to go.
I crossed the state line and I fell into a black hole. Who knows? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Wow, what an interesting start to our program this morning. But my name is Julie Samuel Westman. I'm pleased to be here to welcome you to our Sunday gathering for Kansas City Oasis. Thanks to joining us here on the Zoom call and also those that are seeing this on Facebook Live and kind of wondering what's going on. Anyway, we are a secular community that feels that the human experience is better when it's shared. And we're so pleased that we've decided to be here and that that you have decided to share your Sunday morning with us. We gather around 5 values, which are that people are more important than beliefs, meaning comes from making a difference, human hands solve human problems, reality is known through reason, and be accepting and be accepted. We have a great lineup today. First up, we'll have music from our very own JJ Cantrell. Our community moment, we'll share a little bit about what's going on in their world, is Julie Randolph. And we're very pleased to welcome our guest speaker, Justine Underwood Jones. So with that, we will go ahead and get back to some music, and we'll have JJ take it away.
How's it going, everybody? It's good to see you all. You're all really wonderful, and I'm glad to be playing music for you, because that's what the cool kids deserve. That's what we've always wanted. Maybe a fish in the sea, planning on swimming around the world for free. Maybe a knife in its place, sitting there resting, waiting to cut to the chase. Looking around, everyone's wasting time, waiting for their fair share, staying on the ground. No one's going up because nobody cares. Maybe it's fair. Maybe a map of the moon, pointing at several seas. Be sure to be swimming in soon. Maybe a hawk in the sky, hunting while flying, seeing the mouse that runs by. Looking around, everyone's stalking something that isn't there, raising up the ground. No one can find it because it's apparently rare. Maybe it's fair. You'll find me in prayer for all of our brothers and sisters everywhere. We should all care for everyone you can't help but see out there. Then we'd be fair. Once everyone starts to care, then we'd be fair.
Woo! Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
Did it sound terrible?
No, it did not sound terrible at all.
Hang on. I don't need a hoodie on anymore if I'm going to play like that.
Warmed up.
Like to live beneath the dirt, a tiny space to move and breathe is all that I would ever need. I want to live beneath the dirt, where I'd be free from push and shove like all those swarming up above. Beneath their heels I'd spend my time and shout your name into the wind. I'd wiggle in the earth and dew, shout your name into the wind. And sometimes I would think of you, shout your name into the wind. And if you ever think of me, kneel down and kiss the earth. Show me what this thought is worth. I'll never hear your voice again. Shout your name into the wind. I'd wiggle in the earth and dew. Shout your name into the wind. Sometimes I would think of you. Shout your name into the wind. And if you ever think of me, kneel down and kiss the earth. Show me what this thought is worth. I'll never hear your voice again.
Woo! Lovely. You sound fantastic this morning. Oh, thank you so much. Woo. Okay, so that was really great. Another fantastic performance by JJ. So we'll get into a few announcements before we kick off the rest of the program. First of all, we have a couple of celebrations. It is Kate Law's birthday on Wednesday and Mark Minden's on Thursday. So maybe reach out and show them the love via Facebook or text. If any of you have a celebration you'd like us to share on Sunday, maybe just something great that's happened in your week or month or year, we're happy to celebrate anything these days. There's not a lot that's going on that's great, but we're pleased to be able to share that. So if you have a birthday, an anniversary, something great happened at work, you got a new job, a new pet, we'll celebrate anything, and we're happy to do so. Next up, we have a social committee / fundraising announcement. So coming up soon, we'll have the things to do yard decorating to show people the love for their birthdays, or just to, hope that they have a good day. There'll be a sign. One of the signs will say "Somebody at Oasis loves you," and there might be some other options. And the fundraising committee will post soon about the donation, the suggested donation for that service. They'll bring it to your yard for about 24 hours. So there'll be more details to come as far as that fundraising / donation service that we can provide. Another exciting announcement from the Philanthropy and Community Outreach section or committee. We are supporting a couple of Kansas City organizations, Cornerstones of Care and Foster Adopt, by providing holiday gifts for a total of 20 children. So there was a little bit of a mix-up. That maybe wasn't our original intention, but we feel like we can do it. We're going to count on Oasis Human Hands to solve the human problem of potentially, kids that are in the foster system or are up for adoption. Both of these organizations work with families to really make a difference in our community, so we're happy to get to partner with them. So we'll have spreadsheets up later this week to sign up for specific gifts that have been requested, or if you would prefer to donate to this effort, Sarah will be posting a link to her Venmo and Cash App, and I'll probably put it here in the link as well. Okay, and it looks like another announcement that we have here from last week's program. We were able to do sort of a workshop with Casey Effective Altruism regarding donating. I believe we ended up selecting a charity that was working on climate change. I think that's what the conclusion we came to when we did that with them. And it lets us know that there were some bonus donation matching that they were able to receive. And so it was $200 that was donated to the Founders Pledge Climate Change Fund, which funds organizations like the Clean Air Task Force. So actually we doubled our, with some matching, they were able to double the gift that they gave to help fight climate change. So we're really, really excited. That was a great presentation. We really appreciate that they donated in our name for that cause. So that is fantastic. Okay, and with that, we will go ahead and go into, unless I see any more announcements pop up, doesn't look like it. We'll go ahead and go into our community moment. For those of you that are new with us today, Community Moment is a time where someone from our community comes and shares with us something about their journey in life. It could be something that they're really passionate about. It could be a travel location that they've gone to and want to share with us. It could be something related to their profession. Just, anything that makes you happy, sad, thoughtful, or gives us something to think about. We're happy to have people share that. If you would like to share your story, we'll tell you how to do that a little later. But it is my pleasure at this time to introduce Julie Randolph. And if she could describe herself in 3 words, it would be smiley, loving, and imperfect. And this is pretty funny. If she had a warning label, it would be, I have a label maker and I'm not afraid to use it. So you could use your label maker to actually make a warning label for yourself.
I totally could. Yeah.
It's like whole
I've done things similar. Yeah. I label whatever I feel like it. Yeah. All right. I am going to share my screen. Hopefully I do it right this time. And we will see how I do. Okay. Can you see my presentation, but not my notes? Awesome. Yes, did it. Okay. So, things that what your nurse wished you knew. I could probably talk about this for an hour, but I have like 6 minutes. So I'm going to talk real fast. If for some reason you need copies of what I'm saying, I can do that. But without further ado, that's everybody's favorite phrase, right? Come on, slides. Oh, disclaimer. These are my personal thoughts and opinions. Not every nurse is going to agree with what I say. If you're a nurse and you think I'm stupid, you're totally entitled to your beliefs. Lots of medical people probably in our audience, and you're going to think some things I say are great and some things I say are stupid. So, this is just me in my little box of my own personal world. Also, every image that I have on here, I stole from the internet. So if you want a source, check the internet. Here is my experience, my background of different places I worked. For those of you who don't want to read it all, basically cardiology, primary care. I was in the military. I worked med-surg in a women's care unit, neurology, ENT. I worked in simulation labs for nursing school, and I am currently a clinical instructor in a variety of KC hospitals. The pre-post department of cath lab is my primary workstation, and I also spend a lot of time working in a dialysis unit. I've also done a lot of volunteer work for Camp Nurse at Girl Scouts. And then I've, done things like patch up my own kids and my friends and answered phone calls about like, my kid has a weird rash on their butt. What do I do? And I've even put stitches in a dog. So, lots of interesting things I've learned in my life. So jumping straight in, things that I wish my patients would know, or my friends or my loved ones would know. Anywhere, when we go to the doctor, I'm pretty sure everyone in the history of maybe America, I don't know, Kansas City, I don't know, however you want to define that, you have to go to the doctor at some point. I don't care if you're like, oh, I think I hurt my body part, or I need a checkup because my work says I have to, or you're actually ill, or your kid had, a growth spurt and you need to do the obligatory things. I don't know, whatever. I always want to encourage people to bring a list of what questions do you have for your doctor. When my kids were, growing, I would have, just routine questions like, oh, well, their hip kind of clicks when they go down the stairs. Is that normal? Or if I'm going for my own self, I might say, hey, I need a refill on my vitamins. And, like I might have 5 things, but if I don't write them down, I'll ask 2 of them and then forget the rest. And then I get home and I'm like, oh no, I was supposed to ask the thing. Always helpful to have a list of your medications. If you are a frequent flyer at your doctor's office, they probably have that list. Yes, that's true. But especially if you're going anywhere new, if you're going to an urgent care or an emergency department, or if you're going to plan on being admitted to a hospital, that facility you're going to probably does not have the list of your medications. And as much as we can try to know the dosages and the times and how often and when the refills are due and who is the prescriber and all that kind of stuff, a lot of information to keep track of in your brain. So if you just have it in your phone or on a piece of paper, you can just hand that information over to whoever is asking. Same thing with your pharmacy and then those emergency contacts. I have been called from the girl at the doctor's office saying, hello, your loved one is on the floor in my office. Can you come get them? And had they not had my emergency contact information on file, there could have been a bigger delay than there was. So that's really important. Even if it's my roommate or my spouse or my neighbor or somebody like that, we want to make sure we have those numbers to get a hold of somebody. And in this day and age, I know like 5 people's cell phone numbers by heart. And normally it's because they're my significant other or like my dad, who's had the same cell phone number my whole life. So if you can't have that number to spit out off the top of your head, write it down so that it's easy to access. Okay, if you have special needs, please call ahead. This was a I'll tell you a very brief story about this, but especially when you come to a care team, please call ahead and let them know what your needs might be. When I worked in primary care, I once had a very sweet little lady call me in tears because her husband wouldn't take her to see the doctor, and she had a lot of concerns that were just kind of piling up and piling up. And when I asked her to help me understand better, you know, like, is she being neglected or whatever, she said that he wasn't strong enough anymore to help her get out of the car, and they didn't know how to get from their home inside of the doctor's room. And there was a mobility issue. And so I said, okay, do you have a cell phone or some way to get a hold of me if you were in the car? And they did. And so I think they borrowed their cell phone from a neighbor or some beautifully adorable story. And then I said, when you're in the parking lot, call me and I will either come out myself or send one of our, you know, our workers to come and assist you with a wheelchair or a walker or whatever we had. And we had her needs addressed, and she like teared up and thanked me on the way out of the office because she meant, you know, we were able to meet her needs. And it was like a 3-minute trip from my office to the door of her car for me to make that happen. So especially there can be other things going on, like maybe your provider has a strong language accent, or if you're hard of hearing, or if you don't understand how fast people talk. Medical people talk really fast. I don't know why we do that. You can call ahead and say, hey, do you have a medical assistant or a nurse or an office person who could sit in and be a second set of ears with me? Especially now in the age of COVID, sometimes they're not allowing family members to come in. Or you can call ahead and arrange, hey, can I have my daughter-in-law on FaceTime or something like that? We want to make sure we're meeting your needs and you're getting the information you need as you need it, but sometimes we do have to plan ahead a little bit. And I've definitely sat in an office and taken notes for a patient and said, here's what I heard. Can I clarify anything after? And yes, it was a little bit extra time out of my day, but in the grand scheme of things, I was happy to do it because if I could tell my patient was like, I don't get what's going on, it allowed me to kind of be a little bit more of an advocate for them. So always feel free to call ahead. If your doctor's office can't meet your needs, that'll give you an opportunity to ask, how could we accomplish this? Okay, next thing is you have rights, and then so your staff. So I'm going to zip through this kind of quickly, but one of the things, especially when people are admitted to the hospital, that we kind of forget is you are a person who has rights, and we want to work together as a care team to talk about you know, how do you want this to go? You know, let's say you have an elderly, like a loved one, right? Your mom, your grandma, your father-in-law, whoever. And they're in the hospital. We know we might have a right for things like which nursing home might you want to pick? Do they need to go to a rehab facility? You get to choose which one. But even things like if I was admitted to the hospital and they said, oh, hey, I want to come and check your vital signs every 4 hours. I'm like, yeah, dude, I sleep from like 10 p.m. until 6. So can we maybe not? Like that's within my right to request that of my team. Now, heaven forbid I had a stroke or some sort of neurological problem or a cardiac problem and they need to check a neurological exam, or they need to make sure I'm on a heart monitor, or they need to be monitoring my blood pressure often. There's lots of different things that we can do. But if you're just getting woken up all the time, because that's just unit protocol, but you ever have that thing in your brain of like, do they really need to be doing this right now? We can work with you on those types of things. Same thing, if you need an x-ray for your physician team to look at 7 a.m., that means they have to do that x-ray at 4 a.m., right? if you don't want to get woken up and go to a whole different department of the hospital, we can work with you on that. Are we going to be happy about it? Maybe not, but that's okay. We want to work with you on that. So if the physician team knows that they're not going to have an X-ray result until 11 a.m., but that's because you need to get it done at 8 because you're sleeping, that's just part of one of those things that you need to know. You have the right to make those decisions. Same thing with medications. We want to make sure if you take them at a certain time of day, you can ask, hey, I don't take that medicine in the morning. Can I take it at night during my normal time I would take it at home? If you're getting a new medication and you don't understand why, or you don't understand the side effects, you can always say, you know what, I need a little bit more information. I want to talk to my doctor in person about it before I start taking that medication. I know it's a delay, but here are my concerns. Nobody should ever be trying to force pills down your throat that you're not comfortable taking. Let's see here. And then this is again for somebody who would be an inpatient in the hospital. Please, please, please always talk to your staff member about what is our plan for the daytime. If it's a daytime nurse that you're just meeting or a nighttime nurse taking over, you can say, hey, so nice to meet you. What's our plan for tonight? Oh, we're going to do vital signs around 10 and 2, and you have an antibiotic at 2 a.m. And other than that, I'm hoping to let you rest. Okay, for that antibiotic at 2 a.m., what's that going to look like? That sort of thing. And that can just help hopefully limit how many interruptions you're having, or let's say you have a lot of pain going on and you need to be checked on every 2 hours to make sure your pain is under control. If you talk to your team about that at the start of your journey, you're going to have a much smoother night, I promise you. And they will too, because they'll have a good expectation of what your needs are. And then with regard to the whole thing, your staff rep rights, please be nice to people. We're here serving you. I mean, yes, I'm getting paid for it. And yes, that is my job, but it sucks to go to work and have people griping at you and being mean or complaining or telling you how awful the hospital is. Just please be nice. It just makes our work a lot more enjoyable. Oh, this is a good one. Family point of contact. For all the love of all the good things in the world, please pick one point of contact. I know this can be really, really hard, especially when you have multiple people who care about a person. Again, this is going to be for those instances where you have somebody admitted to the hospital. But I wanted to give you an example. So if my mom were being cared for in the hospital and my dad, who lives with her and is in the same town, is the point of contact, but I'm the medical person in the family, it's going to be worthwhile for me to text my dad or email my dad a list of like, hey, here's the questions I need you asking. Can you arrange with the medical team or the nursing team to have us both on the line for like a group call or things like that? Because if my dad calls at 10 a.m. and says, oh, hey, how's my wife doing? And then I call at 11 a.m. and I said, hey, how's my mom doing? And then my brother calls at 2 p.m. and says, hey, how's my mom doing? I promise you, your nurse is going to be like, I cannot do my job because I'm so busy answering questions for family members. Especially we're talking to radiology and physicians and colleagues with therapy or other nurses, technicians, our charge nurses are calling us. We get so many calls that's constantly interrupting our mental process of, I'm supposed to be giving medication safely, or I need to be doing wound care. Especially our ICU nurses. I know this is a really big concern because they have drips that they're trying to calculate. They're assessing constantly. And every single time they get those phone calls to interrupt, it kind of takes them out of what they're trying to concentrate on. So just kind of think about that. If you're the coordinator of a group of family members, really, really understanding that that's an important thing for patient safety and for the sanity and mental flow of your staff at the hospital. And if you have issues, I know we've had people that one family member is estranged from the other family members, but they both love mom. Yes, we will make exceptions to that. But in an ideal world, we'd have kind of one person at the top and then the information tree would go out from there. Hygiene. Oh, this is my favorite. This is certainly a taboo subject. Everybody has different personal preferences on how often they want to shower or wash their hair or change their clothes or underwear, or if they, all those things are very personal to each person. But I will tell you from my own personal experiences, again, this is mostly on the inpatient side of the world. Everybody is taught very different things about what's proper or what's right or what you ought to do or what you need to do, especially at a young age. They might say, hey, go take a shower, but they don't say things like, please clean your butt, or your armpits hold smells, please clean them. So I often joke with my kids whether or not they need a shower, and I say, when was the last time you cleaned your butt? And then they'll think about it and say, oh, I'm good. Or they'll say, okay, I'm gonna go take a shower. I'll be back in 10 minutes, you know, whatever it may be. So, you know, it's your butt. I mean, it's moist and there's lots of sitting happening, especially when you're in a person in the hospital. And I've had people argue with me about the need for them to wash their butt, and because they've just been sitting there and for 2 or 3 days. And I say, yeah, but you're still sweating. You're still a person who's sloughing skin. We still have moisture that is retained in that area, and we're still passing gas, all sorts of things like that. So for people who experience the smells of your butt, please just wash it now and then. Not every 5 minutes, now and then. And then again, people who are inpatients, if you want to wear your clothes from home, normally it's not a big deal. Like if you want to be comfortable in your pajamas or your unicorn onesie or whatever, I kind of don't care. The biggest thing is oftentimes we have to have a heart monitor on you, so you need somewhere to put it. So if you're ever going to go to the hospital, a button-up shirt with a pocket in it, old school, like lumberjack style, perfect. I love those shirts. But make sure if your family is coming to visit you, if they're allowed to do that, or if they're, you know, bringing you supplies, please have them bring enough so that you can swap that t-shirt out every day or every other day at least. Because if you drool and you get stuff on your shirt, I can't do laundry for you. So just kind of keep that in mind. If we get blood, or if, let's say, we get trach sputum or anything like that, I'm like, well, I can get a washcloth and do my best. But that's why we have hospital gowns, is because I can slip a new hospital gown on you in 5 minutes, but I can't launder your clothing. So just kind of keep that in mind. We do want you to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable wearing a gown because you're a dude who's never worn a dress before, I don't care. You can wear pajamas and a button-up shirt. That's fine with me. Just always ask, and then bring that one to make my job less gross and difficult. Thank you for that. David Rick says, I'm told clean underwear is deeply serious. Yes, yes it is. Nails and toenails. This is more for families. Things, especially for kids and elderly people. My kids will get some like crazy fingernails happening. And I say, you know how to do this. I've taught you multiple times. And they say, but I don't want to. I said, I do. I'll do it for free. So, you know, just checking in on your loved ones, or if you see people in your life that, you know, you have an intimate relationship with, that you could say, hey, I think you might need some help with your fingernails. Could I please help you with that? Toenails are another good thing. I have no idea what my grandma's toenails look like. I would have to ask her, hey, grandma, how are your toenails? Are you having the flexibility to get down and reach? Can you see what you're doing? You know, please ask, especially if people are too embarrassed to say that they need help. That might become an issue. So just, the toes are great. But bear in mind, I know this picture, that I tried to pick a very mild picture for you. Oftentimes, this is not dirt, friends. This is poo. Gross. Okay, so yuck. Carry on. Body hair. Do we care? No, not at all. I would be thrilled to see these dudes walk in my hospital. I would love it. Girls who always say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't shave my legs. Yeah, bro, I don't care. Not even a little bit. My two exceptions are if you have a lot of hair on your arms and I need to put an IV, I might shave a little bit just so my sticker will stay. Same thing with my heart monitors. Sometimes my heart stickers won't stay and they won't translate the information from your body into our machinery that we need if you have too much hair in the way. So I'll remove that. The other fun, gross thing is if I have to change a brief or a diaper on a person and they have really, really long butt or pubic hair, use your imagination. It can get real exciting. But sometimes it is optimal. And our staff might ask family if we have their permission to trim some of that pubic hair. Yeah, Nikki says, oh no. Yeah, it's basically like I've had times where I have to like squeegee 4-inch long pubic hair to get the poo off of it while I'm giving somebody a bath. It's pretty great. So, oh, and I love Mary Lou is like covering her face. Thank you for that. That's exactly how I feel when I have to do it. Yeah, so if you are going into the hospital and you know your loved one is incontinent of bowel or bladder, and you know they have a jungle, maybe mention it to your staff and say, hey, please feel free to do what you need. Or if you have the means to take care of that yourself, it's not a what looks better sort of thing. It's just a how can I keep you clean in a way that doesn't hurt my soul kind of way. That's all. That's all. Julie, am I doing okay on time? Yeah, okay, kind of tell me when I need to do this thing. Tips and tricks, what nurse talk would it be? 2 minutes, okay. If I didn't give you some tips and tricks, so we're gonna go real fast, and this is available, I can send if you need it later. A lot of people I've had in my life call me about diaper rash. Even adults can have issues with kind of that skin integrity around those moist areas. The biggest thing, if you guys see the face of the mom in this little picture, anybody had that face looking at a little baby's booty saying, I don't know what to do for my poor little baby. Biggest thing is clean it. If you can use water to just pour over instead of scrubbing it with a baby wipe, that's super helpful. And then you got to let it dry. I don't care if you put the baby on a puppy pad or a towel or let them walk around naked or whatever you got to do. I'd rather have them pee on the floor and then clean up the pee than actually, Lindsay, no, it's the opposite. Cloth diapers tend to keep the moisture on the skin more than disposable diapers do. So if you have a really bad diaper rash, you may have to switch to disposables briefly. And then, so airing out the skin is really important, because if you don't, you're actually trapping with that barrier cream the moisture into the skin. And if the moisture can't evaporate away from the skin, it's going to get trapped and it's going to penetrate deeper into the skin. And that's going to make it harder for the skin to slough off like the healthy layers of new growth. And so same thing, I've had this happen my own self, and I was like, gosh, my skin's kind of sensitive. And I just have to remind myself, like, let it air dry, shake my booty around, walking naked for a minute before I put my clothing on. Okay. The drier the booty, the better before you put something new on it. Sinus congestion. Any allergy sufferers in our audience? If you've ever had that congestion and you're like, I wish I could amputate the front half of my face, this might be for you. Alcohol is really great. I learned this trick from a sinus doctor in the military, and she was like the top tier. Before she would do surgery on somebody, she made them rinse, do a nasal rinse with this alcohol. And it's basically a nasal wash and a mucus solvent, meaning it helps to strip away the mucus. And it can help clear your blocked nasal passages and then reduce inflammation that is caused by things like allergies or head colds or sinus infections or things like that. She said she ended up canceling about 60% of her surgeries when she basically forced her patients to use this. And I've been using it for the last probably 8 or so years. And I don't have to do it very often because I get better very quickly. So if you guys need more information about this, I'm happy to, talk to you more in depth. I think I have like 2 more slides. So if you have pain or soreness, ice rest and ibuprofen. I learned this in the military, and it's kind of a joke that it fixes everything. But really, when it comes to acute injuries or acute swelling or inflammation, this really does help a lot. I made Will do this last night. His back was hurting. He had a headache. I said, let me bring you some ibuprofen and sit on an ice pack while we're watching TV. And wouldn't you bet, 25, 30 minutes later, he's like, I really do kind of feel better. Yes, nursing, easy stuff for the win. Ibuprofen, obviously not everybody can take it. If you've ever had a physician tell you not to, listen to them, not to me. But for the majority of us, ibuprofen is okay. You may be asking, should I use ice or heat? That is a really, really great question. I'm not going to belabor it. When in doubt, Google ice versus heat. And you can always find kind of some examples of, oh, my knee chronically aches every single blah, blah, blah. Probably use heat. If you have an acute thing like I was moving or I was cleaning something and I tweaked my back the wrong way, that's probably ice. So really, really helps without having to use hardcore painkillers. Just throw some ice on it. And this is my last slide right here. I'm not going to have you guys read this right now. This was a snap I took of the internet that a doctor was saying, if you're having trouble paying your bills, these are just some resources for different community programs. You can call the hospital and say, hey, I don't have a job, or I don't have insurance. I'm having trouble paying my bill, or I don't have a lot of money to pay my bill. Can I work on any sort of community care programs? Do you have a sliding scales fee? Just calling and talking to them about what some of the options are makes you a person in their mind, and then they can help you with personalized advice versus just, oh, patient 127,000 out of a million. You know, they're going to bill you like they normally would unless they understand that you need help. So please keep that in mind. I can post that later if you need all the details. That is it for my presentation. I know I was probably close on my time there. Sorry, Julie. And I know Sarah wrote in here, is that the same one in the stores with the saline, the neti pot? So for the nasal rinse specifically, the nasal rinse is amazing in and of itself. And that's basically saline, which is a little bit of salt, and you can make it at home with salt and baking soda, but it's a lot more gentle on your nasal passages. Please never ever use straight up water in your nose because you will feel like you're dying. So any sort of nasal rinse that you have used before, like I've done it with a syringe, I've done it with the Ned pot thing where you kind of tilt your head. Other people have like a water bottle looking thing that goes upside down with a straw. They all do the same job. It just is your personal preference on what works best. So Sarah, to answer your question, yes, the Alkalol is basically like a solution you would add to this saline water bottle, and then you flush with that. I've recommended it to people. It's got a menthol sort of smell / flavor, if that makes any sense, that can be very, very intense. So if you can't tolerate it, you know, you're not going to hurt my feelings, but I find it very, very refreshing. And I don't know, I just feel like I got a facial done on my sinus cavities and it feels amazing. So I don't do it if I don't feel sick. That might be a little beyond, but yeah. What other questions do you guys have?
You'll have to take them maybe after, if you don't
After.
mind.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to carry on with my day. I love you all.
Okay. Good to see you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was super informative and helpful. I know sometimes, I don't know, I was raised by old school people that doctors and nurses always knew exactly what was right, and that I never was supposed to ask questions. I was supposed to just show up and do the things. So it's insightful, you know, what rights we have and really what we can do to contribute to our own care. That was super, super helpful. Okay, so if anybody else has a story they'd like to share with us or something to talk about, Mark Dixon, I believe, is scheduling into January at this point, so you'll have some time to think about what you might like to say. And with that, we will go into our breakout rooms and get a chit chat with each other for a little bit, and we will come back together shortly. So thank you very much. We'll see us back in just a few minutes. Okay, so briefly we will have folks returning to the main room here. Hello, everyone. Looks like we're still waiting for a few folks to join us again, including, I think, our musician.
Yeah, we're still missing like 10 people.
There we go. All right. Well, I think we're much closer now. All right. So welcome back from the break, everyone. Hopefully you got to have a nice chat with the people that you came across there. And we will now welcome back JJ Cantrell for his next performance. Oh, you're muted, my friend. There we go.
I had a request. Oh my God. I had a request, so I was pulling up the lyrics. I'm sorry, everyone.
Yeah, awesome.
Hang on.
Extreme close-up, JJ. Look at that hair, everybody. We were talking about hair in our breakout room. Look at that luxurious hair. So beautiful.
All right. Oh, me, 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 me. Me, me, me. Me, 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 me. Me, me, he, me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. My sweet one, I call you my sweet one. You're my only true sweet one. With my all, I call you my sweet one. From far away, I say your name. Oh, with you, I travel thick. And with you, I'd also travel thin. And all the spaces in between, I'd travel with you. You're my sweet one. But for now, I must sit here and ponder the yonder. Herbivores did well, 'cause their food did never run. My sweet one, I call you my sweet one. You're my only true sweet one. With my all, I call you my sweet one. From far away, I'll say your name. Oh, and if you're ever unsatisfied with the way life's treating you, you know you can count on me to take good care of you. I love you, honey, oh yes I do, you know that's true, of course. And if your dog or cat ever dies, I'll buy you a you. My sweet one, I call you my sweet one. You're my only true sweet one. With my all, I call you my sweet one. From far away, hey, hey, I'll say your
Woo! All right. That was fantastic. Now I have energy to jump right into our introduction of our featured speaker. We're so pleased to have her with us this morning. Justine Underwood Jones is an intersex and trans woman who spent over 11 years in Strawberry Hill in Kansas City, Kansas, where she transitioned full-time at age 26. Justine has a Bachelor of Arts in Theology and Ministry and a Bachelor of Arts in English. Most recently, she served a productive 3-year term as the president of the Strawberry Hill Neighborhood Association and achieved the construction of a dog park and a senior-friendly community garden, as well as the resurfacing of alleys. Her organization raised over $30,000 under her leadership, which will be used to build the first public playground in the historic neighborhood. So that's an awesome achievement. And today she'll be speaking to us about the Trans Day of Remembrance. And with that, please give a warm Oasis hand, spirit finger welcome to Justine.
Thank you for the jazz hands. I always appreciate that. So I have sort of three stories, three histories to kind of share with you as they sort of relate to each other, just to give some different perspectives on the trans experience. So one is my own personal story. I'll try not to bore you with my entire life story, but I'm going to share an awful lot of it with you guys because my trans experiences may not be universal, but they are examples of some of the things that folks experience, particularly in the Midwest, being trans, and sort of the different struggles that we face and how that relates to fear and how fear plays its part in both Trans Day of Remembrance and the history behind that holiday, well, that day of, I guess, observing trans violence and attempting to sort of restore humanity and dignity and respect to trans victims of violence. And also another observation day that I want to talk to you guys about, which is International Transgender Day of Visibility as well. So I'll jump right in. I am a trans and intersex person. Not all intersex people are trans, and not all trans people are intersex. I happen to be a twofer, so that's really exciting for me. I was raised male. I lived the first around 25 years of my life as a male intersex person. I was not openly intersex until basically my last year of college when I saw a doctor to discuss my intersex condition for the first time, and came out to two very close friends that year about being intersex. My desire to transition was part of why I decided to go ahead and seek help for also being intersex and also wanting to transition. But I'll back up a little bit. I realize that this is a secular group, so bear with me as I tell you some of my spiritual history. I was not raised in a terribly religious household. My parents they might identify as spiritual or nominally Christian, but I was not raised in a Bible thumping household. My parents aren't terribly conservative people, but I became a Christian in high school because I found a community that did not bully me, which was new for me. I found people that, took an active interest in me. I'm still friends with most of those people today, but it was at a very conservative church. It was the Nazarene church in my community. And I love that community so much. And I loved my new Christian identity so much that I accepted the call into ministry as a way to help people and as a way to become closer to God, which was important to me. And I went to a conservative university, Southern Nazarene University in Bethany, Oklahoma. It's kind of in the Oklahoma City area. And I spent 5 years ministering at a homeless church. And growing up, sort of being bullied for not really fitting into the male gender role very well, which is just kind of challenging to do if that's not really your forte. That was very challenging. And now I'm in sort of a leadership position. I will say that hurt people. And that's something that in a leadership role and as a people loving role, I would discover as a trans person over and over again. So working with the homeless, I was called a fag by people that I was seeking to help. I was treated very differently by folks that I wanted to love, because we want to believe that if we help people and are kind to people, if we're meeting people's needs, they're going to love that and reciprocate. But when you are put down by society, when you don't have any sort of class privilege, it's sort of easy for folks to feel like, well, at least I'm superior to this people group or to that people group. So a lot of the people that we gave our time and love and resources to minister to were folks who themselves were also racist, homophobic, transphobic, all of these different things. Because when folks are backed into a corner, when they're scared, when their needs aren't being met, it's often their first response is to lash out, to find a scapegoat, or to find someone to put down to sort of build themselves up. And that doesn't stop just at folks in their immediate surroundings. It's even folks that are trying to meet their needs or assist them. So if you are in a people-loving role, or if you are considering going into a people-loving role, whoever you are, there are folks that are going to hurt you, and that's something that you have to accept before you go into that. So that was really challenging for me. During college, I lived in kind of a dorm. We had like public shower situations. I changed in the shower. I was not openly intersex. I was afraid of what would happen if folks got a look at me and saw that I wasn't as male as they thought I was. And so I kept that a secret. None of my roommates ever saw me nude. It was very much, put my clothes in a plastic bag and hang it outside the shower and bring a change of clothes and change in the shower. And I was the only person doing that. And at one point, somebody stole my clothes and I was terrified, and a friend brought them back. So I just kind of stood around wet for a while, cold in the shower, until somebody rescued me. So the college experience, it was different for me. It was challenging. And as I saw my friends getting married and moving on and having their own lives and not knowing what was going to happen to me after I finished college, kind of brought me to a breaking point where I wasn't sure if my life was worth living anymore. And I had my dark nights of the soul before moving to Kansas City, where my intent at the time was to go to Nazarene Theological Seminary to get a Master's of Divinity. And that is what originally brought me to Kansas City. And I decided ultimately I need a change because this life is not worth living anymore if I'm this miserable, but maybe a different life would be. And that is when I transitioned. I transitioned full-time in Kansas City, and my life got better in a lot of ways because I was happy with who I was, but I did not find profitable employment very easily. My documentation did not match my name, and people knew that I was trans because they would get my driver's license and see that. And I was sexually harassed at one place of employment. It was creepy. I was also misgendered at a place of employment where my supervisor and my manager stood around my desk calling me a he. I was let go from that place because I wasn't really welcome there. And I'm pretty sure that my manager, who accused me of swapping out her lotion with a cheaper lotion or overfeeding her fish while she was gone and strange things like that, probably just did not want me to be there. So being unwanted in different spaces can lead you to being broke all the time. I lived in a $20,000 house in Strawberry Hill. My house payments were $200 a month, and there were months when I could not make my house payments. I lived on food stamps. I was very broke, and I was trying to save up for a surgery that was not covered by insurance after the age of 12. That was a very expensive surgery, and I was trying to come up with the cash to pay for that at the same time. If it weren't for a relative, I don't know when I would have been able to have that surgery, which was important for me because I wanted to be comfortable in my own body. It was also important for me because that surgery was necessary for me to change my name and sex on my legal documents, which is just important when you live in a place like Kansas. So this was all pretty challenging, but during all of that, I was still trying to have a role in the church. my church was a little strange because I'm intersex, and I recall sitting in a church board meeting where a bunch of older white men were asking me to describe my genitalia because they wanted to make sure that I was enough of a hermaphrodite that my changing genders wouldn't be a sin. Obviously, this was not a relationship that was going to last, because when you're coming at that place in your church, at some point you have to say, I can't be a part of these people anymore, because even if they're making an exception for me, do I feel comfortable inviting an LGBT person to a church where I'm ministering if I don't know how they're going to be treated by other people, or if this body of people shares beliefs that say, well, it's okay for Justine, but it's not okay for anybody else? Because to me, as somebody who is religious, I would say if God is capable of making me the way that he made me, male and female, he created me, then why is it not okay for anybody else to venture outside of these very rigid, dichomatic gender roles? That doesn't seem to make sense for me. I think that reason does lead us to a better understanding of the world that we live in, and I think that that should inform your faith. So it wasn't my gender transition that ultimately led to my parting ways with the church, but my outspoken support of same-sex marriage during a time when that was still being decided in the courts. Ironically, that was when I crossed the line, was when I publicly spoke out on Facebook and in emails about I support same-sex marriage. I'm someone who's a student at NTS. I graduated SNU with a BA in theology and ministry. I'm a licensed minister in the Church of the Nazarene, and I support this. That was when my ordination credentials were withdrawn. And I was basically told that I was still loved as a person, but that this was not going to continue. Fast forward, I had my surgery. 2 years later, I married the love of my life. That was in 2015. We're very happily married. And after getting married, because my husband had an income, I was not happy working in call centers full-time for 5 years. And I decided to step away from that for my mental health. And instead, I stepped into community organizing, which I would later find out, if mental health is your goal, that's a funny approach. That's a funny way to try to get there. So being a full-time volunteer and the president of the Strawberry Hill Neighborhood Association, I have a long list of accomplishments because it was a full-time volunteer position for me. I was able to go sit down in KCK people's offices and make things happen. It was difficult for them to ignore me. There were people in this community, despite it being a very large LGBT community, there's also a lot of cis, heterosexual, white, conservative Catholic folks that still live in that community. And there's a lot of young hipsters that still were raised very conservative and aren't terribly self-aware moving into the community. And these folks have a way of finding each other. And at one point they organized their own counter neighborhood group because they were not comfortable being represented by me. At one point I was stalked, harassed, threatened by someone. I had to threaten them with a restraining order. I had to involve community policing. It got really scary for me. And on a lighter note, we had folks from this group showing up and saying, why do we need a playground? There are no children here. Basically saying, we don't need these accomplishments that you're working on. These are all moot points, like dismissing or minimalizing the work that we were doing as a community under my leadership. I even had somebody saying, well, I don't want my alley resurfaced. I like my bumpy alley because it keeps people from speeding behind my house. I want to keep our potholes. So basically you cannot earn folks approval if they've decided in advance that they're not comfortable with you being the face of their neighborhood. You're not going to get there no matter how much work you put in, because it's on that person to get there. So I have a long history of folks putting me in a place where I did not feel safe in my own house. I have a long history of, trying to win people over through kindness, through service. But if folks don't want you to be visible, they're going to fight really hard to make you invisible or for you to make yourself invisible. If you make yourself scarce, it's safer. And the trans community knows this. And it's one of the saddest truths and shared experiences that we have. Trans-Erasure is something I spoke about Friday night. It comes in the form of people misgendering you because they refuse to acknowledge you as your gender identity. It comes in the form of folks dead naming you, calling you by the name that you used to use before you transitioned. And it's one of the things that led to Trans Day of Remembrance. A woman by the name of Gwendolyn Ann Smith founded it in 1999 in order to memorialize Rita Hester, who was a Black trans woman who was murdered in Allston, Massachusetts in 1998. So there was a vigil that had about 250 people about a week after her murder. And there was a struggle in that community to advocate for respectful and accurate coverage of her murder, because dead naming and misgendering, like these are things that go back a long ways, like reporting on folks who are trans victims of violence as being a man dressed in woman's clothing, or a woman who, I maybe identified as a man, but they won't call somebody by their chosen name and they won't call somebody by the gender they identify as. And that has improved since Trans Day of Remembrance. If you guys have watched or attended a Trans Day of Remembrance, you guys might know that we read the names of folks who died in the previous year due to anti-trans sentiments, transphobia, bigotry, hate. And that can be very triggering for members of the trans community. So this tradition is really important, but it's also something that folks in the trans community do because it's important to remind allies that we live in fear, that we live in danger. That fear is why a lot of us don't come out of the closet. That fear is what keeps people from doing so until we're at a place where we feel like I either have to come out or my life isn't worth living anymore. We go to very dark places and we struggle with all of our different options before we feel safe or before we feel desperate enough that we transition. And it shouldn't be that way. And knowing, like, if we come to these events that we're going to hear the names of other trans people who died because somebody just hated them or because somebody thought their life didn't matter, that's scary and triggering for us. So sometimes trans people don't feel comfortable even participating in that holiday. And for that reason, I always invite allies to take an active role in it. Don't make yourself center stage. Don't grab that microphone or make it about you, obviously, but help and facilitate these days as a way to be an ally for the trans community to whatever extent your trans friends feel comfortable taking part. But understand that this day can also be triggering for trans people because we're hearing name after name of innocent people who died due to hate that still exists that shouldn't exist in 2020. And that hate is becoming more and more visible as our political culture continues to evolve in a really scary fashion. One thing on that note, I feel like that's a good segue. Trans Day of Remembrance isn't the only day that we have. International Trans Day of Visibility occurs on March 31st. So Trans Day of Remembrance is on November 20th, but Trans Day of Visibility is March 31st. And this day, kind of by contrast, is dedicated to celebrating trans people and their contributions to society. It is a day to recognize the struggles that trans people face, but this was founded by Rachel Crandall of Michigan in 2009. And it was out of frustration that the only well-known transgender-centered day was Trans Day of Remembrance, because that day is set aside to mourn the murders of transgender people. but it doesn't really do a lot to acknowledge and celebrate the living members of the trans community, the folks that are here now. So the first of its kind was celebrated in 2009, and it's continued to sort of evolve and grow. And I want to just kind of take that moment to really briefly just say, I don't speak for the whole trans community because we're not a monolith. There are trans people that don't want to be visible, and we want to try to respect their approach to being safe and living their life the way that they feel like they ought to. We used to say deep stealth. I don't know if kids these days are using the term deep stealth, but folks in the trans community that want to they don't want people to know that they are trans. They want to be fully passable. That's another sort of issue where some folks will spend a lot of money either on plastic surgery or voice modification or body modification because they want to look as much like a cis man or a cis woman as possible. They don't want their employers or their community or anybody in their life, as few people as possible, to know that they are trans. So there are folks that consider themselves to be sort of deep stealth, and their thing is, I don't want people to know I'm trans. By contrast, there are folks that are very out, very proud, and they say, I want to change society and get society to accept me because I shouldn't have to go into hiding. I should be loved and appreciated because being trans is a part of my experience, and I can't keep that from people. So there are two approaches, and we need to respect both of those approaches. And the thing that trans people or intersex people have in common is these very specific issues of being raised in one gender and changing that, or we have a medical difference from other people that affects our reproductive anatomy. And so we might have shared struggles and shared medical struggles, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we agree on any other aspect of life. There are trans people across the political spectrum, if you can believe it. There are trans people. We are different races, different ethnicities, different nationalities, differently abled. We are every age, obviously. We are, I think I already said every race, but I'm not sure, but we're different religions. So we are a very diverse community, and we're not a monolith. So how we respond to these different things is, well, it depends on the individual, and our approach depends on the individual. We can also be gay, straight, bisexual, asexual. So I'm kind of my own person. My experience doesn't represent everyone else's. So that's my sort of disclaimer here at the end. And real briefly, I just want to say some of the ways that we would love for you guys to, well, I can speak for myself, some ways that I would love to see people be an ally to the trans community. Trans Day of Remembrance isn't just a day to stop and say, look at these individuals who lost their lives. These are people, these are humans who died. They have their own lives and their own stories, and their lives are gone now due to hatred. That is really important, but it's also a call to action to make the world safer for trans people who are still here. So it's a day to stop and think, how can we take action to change the world so that this doesn't happen to another person? I spoke a little bit on Friday about, we're trying to ban conversion therapy in KCK, and we're dealing with some sort of stonewalling there, and we want the mayor to listen to us and to act, and we want to ban conversion therapy. There's a Safe and Welcoming Wyandotte ordinance that's up in KCK that we want the commission to take it up, and we want them to vote to approve it, because that would not only help undocumented folks from the Latin American community and other communities to get ID, but it would also help trans people whose ID maybe doesn't accurately represent their chosen name and their gender identity. So that would help them to have access to municipal services available in KCK, and that makes life safer for trans people. So those are just some actions right now in KCK that you can take. And that is a call to action. Trans Day of Remembrance is a call to do something. We also just want you guys to celebrate and embrace trans members of your community, which you can do in your everyday life. And lastly, be willing to see the members of the trans community as folks who can also lead you. We have to be in the room where decisions are being made in order for us to make life safer for other trans people. In order for that to happen, sometimes we have to be in positions of leadership where we will be the face of your business, your community, where we will be advocating for you. And if you can start thinking about yourself as, would I be comfortable if my councilman or councilwoman was trans? Would I be comfortable hiring a trans lawyer? That can be scary because it's not to say your lawyer's not doing a good job, but you hope that you get a judge who isn't a bigot or a jury that isn't bigoted. Are you comfortable being advocated for? Are you comfortable with your leader and someone who's speaking on your behalf being trans? Are you comfortable with trans leadership? Because that has to happen for us to be able to advance and to make the world better for other trans people. It all kind of comes back to safety and fear, and being able to openly acknowledge trans identities makes the world feel a little bit safer for members of our community. I think I went over 20 minutes by about 5 minutes and 45 seconds. So I would love to take questions though.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're not sticklers on time. I mean, it's virtual. Where are we going? We're not going to go hang out with anybody anyway,
We don't
right?
have a lot of options this year.
Yeah. And first of all, we have some lovely comments for you here in our chat. MK says you're beautiful, smart, and an excellent speaker, and this is one of our best presentations. So she, Lindsay, and Jocelyn agree with that too. You talked a little bit about the actions ongoing there in KCK. Can you be a little more specifically how, if we're a member of the KCK community or Wyandotte, are there specific steps that we can take to be supportive in the fight against conversion therapy and the bill regarding helping people get documentation? What can you be a little more specific about what we can do as allies?
Yes, as allies, if you are a resident of KCK, it doesn't matter if you're a renter or a homeowner, if you have a legal vote in KCK, you have at least one commissioner, and there might be more than two at-large commissioners. So you have a district commissioner. I lived in Strawberry Hill, so my district commissioner was Brian McKiernan. My at-large commissioners were Tom Burrows and Melissa Bynum. There may be more than one of those. So you have at least one commissioner, but honestly, you should contact the at-large commissioners as well and let them know, I'm a KCK voter, and this is really important to me. Okay. There are a lot of folks who are very well connected and who are wealthy in KCK. And these folks might be very connected and might be very religious, and they may be pressuring your commissioner to basically say, if you don't toe the line, if you don't do the things that I want you to do, maybe I'm going to fund and support your opponent in the next election. It's politics as usual. It's kind of on steroids in KCK. I lived that life for 4 years, finding out what's connected to what and why things are the way they are. Mm-hmm. If you as voters will watch for meetings and attend them if possible, write, email, call your commissioner and let them know that this is something that you support, and Mayor David Alvey's office. His office receives messages for him, and you can contact them and let them know, I support the safe and welcoming Wyandotte ordinance. That's the municipal ID law that we're trying to get passed. Mm-hmm. We have an ally in KCK for the conversion therapy ban. I think it's okay for me to say it's Commissioner Ramirez, who recently won. I think that was Ann Murguia's seat that he recently won. So if you live in that district, your commissioner is an ally, but he has not had successful conversations with Mayor Alvey. Mayor Alvey has basically said, well, the state should take that up. That's a really convenient way to say, I don't want that to happen, because if you know anything about our state government right now, you know that it is not a state government that is going to ban conversion therapy being this religious notion that if we torture and brainwash young people, we can forcibly change their gender identity or their sexual orientation. And what that generally does is it forces them to suppress it, and they might die from suicide if they are victims of this crime against humanity, really.
Yes.
So if you want to see that banned in KCK, that's not to say that conversion therapy won't still happen outside of the metro, or that dedicated parents won't bus their kids somewhere else. But we can set an example. KCK adopted the non-discrimination ordinance before Johnson County did. And basically Johnson County looks at that and says, well, if KCK is doing that, if Wyandotte County has it that much together, then that makes us just look terrible. So we need to adopt that as well. So you can set an example, and other municipalities will follow. They'll follow KCK's example on progressive agendas like that.
Yeah. So of course, as you mentioned at the outset of your presentation, we are a secular humanist group. Many of us came from repressive religious backgrounds. So, and this is a personal question, and you can feel free to answer it or not. Whether you still consider yourself religious.
I consider myself religious. Technically, I'm a Methodist on paper now. So I still love God. I still love Jesus, but I love God and Jesus despite Christians. Originally, I loved God and Jesus because of Christians, because I felt like they were folks who accepted me and didn't bully me. And it was really wonderful to find a community that took an active interest in me. How are your grades doing? How's home life? Today, it's kind of the opposite. I felt like my faith got me through some really dark nights. I felt that God accepted me for who I am. I feel that God accepts the LGBT community for who they are. So I don't hold the type of actions from the Christian community against God. I think that God's up there face palming a lot, especially this year. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh, it does. And thank you for that. We appreciate your. I just would have to say, overall, we just appreciate your willingness to share such a personal story and be vulnerable with us. That's kind of one of our hallmarks around here. Is we really just love people opening their hearts and their lives to us. And we try to do the same. We feel that people are more important than their beliefs, and try to have those open hands for everyone. So we're so grateful that you were here. And I just wanted to comment, on you're talking about representation, seeing people in public service and as community organizers and leaders like yourself. I really think that representation is so important, that, our the people that are leading our communities represent everybody in the community. And I'm super grateful that you have put yourself at risk even to do that for your community. That's really commendable, and we really appreciate you coming and sharing. Is there a way that someone could reach out to you specifically? Is there something that I don't know if you're welcome, if you would welcome a dialogue with any members of our community. I'm sure that there's more questions that we didn't get to, or they would love to stay in touch with you if possible.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that I can use maybe the chat feature to share my email address with folks.
And we don't
would that work?
Put that on Facebook, but yeah, if you're willing to do that, that's completely your decision though. Don't feel obligated, but someone asked for more information or to dialogue with you personally. So
yes, absolutely. And if I'm not able to get that information out there in a way that it isn't on the internet forever, also definitely reach out through Nikki. And Nikki, you can absolutely share my contact information with anybody in this group that wants to get a hold of me to talk more. That's
probably the best way. We'll try to set up something that's more direct messaging to you, as opposed to everything on the internet lives forever, right?
Right.
I was also encouraged in this last, in our last election, we saw a lot of good things happen, but our first trans state senator was elected. So that was really great to see in Delaware there. So
it's very encouraging.
Very encouraging, right? So again, thank you. Thank you with all our hearts for sharing this much of yourself with us, and for helping us understand more about not only the Trans Day of Remembrance, but the Trans Day of Visibility, and really what we as allies can do to help support our trans friends and also other members of the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and move back over to Jay to wrap up with the musical number. I'll just briefly remind everyone that Oasis is a 501c3 nonprofit that's entirely volunteer staffed and donation funded. If you have appreciated our program today, which I thought was just great all the way around, it's just part of the wide range of informational, educational, and motivational speakers we offer on Sundays. And if you have the means, we would appreciate your support. Our website is kcoasis.org, and you can click it on donate at the top of the homepage. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jay.
So I'm doing the thing that I always do and play a song that I haven't prepared at all and haven't played in a long time, but it's a song that I really like, and it's all about seeing like the hope in somebody through their struggle, that I wrote a long time ago when I worked at Taco Bell. Finally, I've seen in you a glimmer of the world we're going to. Sadly, I've not seen everything through. Remember these words I say to you. Thank you for your life. Thank you for the way you smile sometimes, the way you work, the way you don't give in. If I were you, I'd be optimistic again. If I were you, I'd be optimistic again. Certainly there are those who treat you badly, given they don't give a damn about you now. Oh well, they'll die and have made no difference. I hope you won't be broken. You are lovely. Thank you for your life. Thank you for the way you smile sometimes, the way you work, the way you don't give in. If I were you, I'd be optimistic again. If I were you, I'd be optimistic again. Suddenly, everything seems so different. Indifferently, life has ignored all your expectations. With fear and trembling, you must sail on uncharted waters. Hopefully, you'll pass your dreams on to a brand new mind. Thank you for your life. Thank you for the way you smile sometimes, the way you work, the way you don't give in. If I were you, I'd be optimistic again. If I were you, I'd be optimistic again. If I were you, I'd be optimistic again.
Woohoo! All right. Thank you so much. What a great week of music. I do have a few final announcements before we go. I know we've sort of run over time today, but I think it's all been worth it. First of all, we had an open board meeting this last Monday. A few things to come from that is just a little bit about what we've been working on as a board as far as trying to get more organized for onboarding and offboarding for board members. So we feel like that's in good shape for the coming months and years ahead as far as the board is concerned. Also, there's plenty of ways that you can still volunteer even during the pandemic. I know we don't have as much going on as we normally do, but you might want to reach out to any of our board members if you have an interest in social activities that maybe could be done online, have thoughts about fundraising, ways we could do that, or philanthropy, which is my committee. We're happy to have any and all volunteer efforts put towards, keeping our community together during kind of a tricky time. And also another little update is that we will be having, as Nikki mentioned there in the chat, virtual Thanksgiving that they will be hosting. Same link, I believe, as this meeting today. So
I think there might be a different link, but I posted it in the private chat.
Sorry to slide everybody. Different link.
No, it's okay. The event should be up in the private page. There's the virtual Thanksgiving that will be at 6:30 on Thursday, and then Winter Holidays one will be on the 25th of December at at
noon?
At 6:30.
Oh, 6:30.
So those events should be up on the private page. They will have different passwords just because I was trying to be fun with things, but all the information should be on the event page for those.
And you might have seen some notes in the chat today. If you are not a member of the private page, we definitely can get you added to that. So my name you see here is Julie Wistman, but I'm I think the only Julie Wistman on Facebook, but it's Julie Samuel Wistman. It has my maiden name in there. If you want to reach out to me on Facebook, I can get you connected to the private Facebook group, so you can be up to date on all things Oasis, all the upcoming events that we have. So before we wrap up, just briefly, a member of our care committee mentioned to me that we wanted to add that our hearts go out to Lila and Bill Schmauer. I'm terrible at pronouncing their last name. Especially Bill, who is a firefighter. We know that there was a loss of one of the fire captains in Kansas City, Missouri this week, Bobby Roca, and he died in the line of duty from contact from COVID-19. So on a little bit of a somber note, we reach out to the firefighters and their families this week. So with that, I would like to just briefly thank all of our presenters, JJ Cantrell, Julie Randolph, and of course our featured speaker, Justine Underwood Jones. Stay warm, everybody. We're heading into it. Everybody stay well, do what you can, wear your mask, and most importantly, probably stay in touch with the people that support you. Stay in touch with your community as best you can, and we will be here same time next week. You might take a look at the private page. We're going to do kind of a community care week next week. We'll be creating some kits for distribution to those in need and the houseless in our community. I'll do some examples of how you can do that. So we'll be really thinking about the things we're grateful for next week following our Thanksgiving holiday and what we can do for our community. So with that, I will bid you farewell. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.